Imagine a vibrant discussion between people that includes both openness and critical thought in the pursuit of truth. The Purchasing Truth podcast is an experience, a journey, an exploration of the impact that negative messages in politics and the media have on our families, community, society, and nation. Join your hosts, Bill Stierle and Tom to discover new concepts and language strategies that will reveal effective ways of establishing truth. This podcast series will tackle current events, leadership challenges, healthcare confusion, integrity in business, and many other areas that affect us all. Gain clarity and understanding of the various truth perspectives. Welcome to Purchasing Truth.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Purchasing Truth. I'm Tom Hazard, along with your host, Bill Stierle. And I got to tell you, Bill, my head is kind of spinning with all the messages that I'm hearing in our country, all the communication going back and forth. And it's very difficult to be in this state that we're in. And I think emotions are sort of all over the place. And we need to try to make some sense of this. Can we do that today?
I'm glad we are talking about this topic, because when we look at truth in the managing of emotions, we've got to really kind of watch how we take things, how when somebody says or does something, that's kind of like a stimulus. And then our response is how we take it. And there are so many stories, Tom, I could share with you about somebody says something, somebody takes it a certain way, something comes out of that person's mouth, and the thing goes sideways and the conflict, just starts blowing up, because we are not doing a great job adapting to our technology in our environment. Our texting, our emailing, our communication and our news media, our video clips have become so penetrating. It's like our brain is having the hardest time dealing with this fundamental onslaught of information, opinions, biases, fallacies, beliefs, that we can't find a fact anywhere. And then what winds up happening is stimulus response. And our response is based on a belief. It's not even based on a fact. It becomes so instantaneous. Violence is coming out of our mouth, and the person doesn't even know the violence is. The person's not ready to hear a person's belief, because they really haven't, their fact hasn't even been heard yet. So it's a very unsettling discussion, because we've lost the ability to process truth because of the speed and the volume of information. So there are all kinds of stories we can tell about how truth is getting hijacked. I mean, all kinds of things.
Well, there are lots of things. I agree. And one of the sort of questions that I have, because we're seeing a lot of things happen in the present moment in some of the courts around the country.
Yes.
In Pennsylvania, in Michigan. And can we agree, and I guess it's sort of a question, but can we agree that our court system is supposed to be an arbiter of truth? Is that fair to say?
Yeah, it's the arbiter of truth based on a set of written legal agreements or legal casement. They're called precedent. Here is this precedent that this legal court decided upon. And then when we overturn something was a legal precedent, it was law, and we overturn it, then we start working at the new law. So At one time, slavery was legal until there was a new law that was written that slavery is illegal. You can't buy or sell a person. My favorite one is in Saudi Arabia, slavery was legal 30 years ago. You could own somebody. It's very unsettling to even say.
It is very
30,
unsettling.
35 years ago, slavery was legal in Saudi Arabia and other countries down there in the Middle East. It's upsetting. It's upsetting to even say it. 100 years ago, or when our slavery was legal one day, and then the other day it wasn't legal. So the courts are trying to work off of legal precedences that were set, and then the court decides it, and then other states choose to adopt that legal status, that precedent. All right.
Well,
so far so good?
Yeah, that's very helpful. Thank you.
So they're arbiters. So the judge is the arbiter of truth. If something is legal or not. Here's when it gets wiggly. It's going to get wiggly really quick. People get upset every time I get in this discussion about how to communicate truth, because morals and ethics are not legally prosecuted by the court. You can do something morally and unethical, but if there's no law written about it, you can't do anything about it. So what winds up happening, and what's happening right now with the speed of social media, people can't tell the difference, because if something's not moral or not ethical and somebody does it, an individual might say that somebody should do something about that. And the only way that we used to be able to deal with moral and ethical things is through guilt and shame. We don't have those tools anymore.
Well, seriously, that is, it seems that we're in a completely new era, in a new place regarding truth and especially morals and ethics, where, I mean, we've talked about it in the past. There was a time at which the media would try very hard not to say the president lied about anything. They would say, well, he's stretching the truth, or he's what would the euphemisms be that they would say that
what was exaggerates and spins? That right. was what was a that was a thing. He exaggerates and spins. About year and a half, 2 years in, people on Fox leaned on that. He doesn't lie. He exaggerates and spins. Now, lying or not lying is a moral and ethical thing. It's not necessarily a legal thing.
Well,
unless
perjury, though,
there's
right?
damage. Yeah. Unless there's damage from the lie that somebody wants to follow. And this is where certain people can get away with a lot of stuff because, yeah, I lied, but are you going to spend the money to prosecute me? I broke the contract, but are you really going to spend $100,000 because I have $1 million and I will bankrupt you on the way of you trying to reinstate this contract? I will legally bury you because I have more money than you do.
Well, and that's been the Trump mode of business for his entire really career, hasn't it?
I feel completely unsettled by what you just said because it activates morals and ethics inside me. Is that money in the way the legal system works has created a great disadvantage to truth, because you have to spend to get truth. you got to spend to get justice? Is that the way this one's being played out? And the answer is yeah, that's the way it works. It's the way it works. And I'm exasperated even saying it, because it doesn't meet my need for integrity and it doesn't meet my need for justice. That there's that much influence against something that's moral or ethically not being able to prosecute because I don't have enough money to get there.
Well, now we have the situation where aside from just, it being, the sort of court side of this thing, using the courts, I'm going to outspend you. I'm going to bury you in legal fees. I'm going to bankrupt you if you don't agree to me, even though what I want may not be in alignment with the contract I signed. Go ahead and try to sue me and force me. But now we've gotten to the point where it used to be that when a president got up to the podium in the White House, they would try very hard not to say something that was so obviously untrue. But now it's very common for the president to get up at the podium and say something that's not true. They do try to spin it. Of course, Kellyanne Conway coined the phrase alternative facts, right? They'll try to spin it. But then all that the president cares about is that half of America believes what he's saying and isn't going to challenge him as to whether it's true or not. He doesn't care what the other half thinks.
No, that's right. He's not interested in that. He's not trying to work his way back to the middle. So I really feel really unsettled by this conversation, because we've got to manage our emotions in the current moment. And me, by saying I feel unsettled, I feel uncomfortable, I feel exasperated, is me actually managing my own emotions. And I am feeling that because my need for integrity and ethics and fairness and morals are not met. And I'm just managing my emotions in real time for anybody that's listening to this podcast. I'm managing my own damn emotions. See how all of a sudden I'm feeling mad that I have to do this? It's like, I feel mad. I feel mad that there's not a higher integrity in narrative, and it's affecting my integrity, my morals, my ethics, because when somebody seeds a conversation and starts a narrative and then starts reinforcing it to hijack people's beliefs, here it comes. I'll start with the first narrative, and we can actually find out. I don't believe in mail-in votes. I think mail-in votes, there's a lot of fraud that can take place there. When the president started that, he planted the seed that truth and trust cannot be met with mail-in votes. It automatically makes everybody scramble to find out if it's true or not, instead of facing it down and saying, no, you cannot talk about this unless you have evidence. You have a lot of power and you have a lot of influence with your voters. And for Republicans not to call him out on that right away, Mitt Romney tried to, but he had to tap dance it in there because the rest of his party was going to take his head off if he did. Does that make sense now?
It does make sense, but it's very interesting to see the collision, and I think that might be a good word to use, between the things that Trump says that are untrue, that are meant to hijack truth, that are meant to sow those seeds of doubt. Like, there's been tons of voter fraud in Pennsylvania. He talks about, dead people voting. They talked about people who were denied the right to vote. And this is just, claiming that, voters in Pennsylvania and certain counties, we're not allowed to cure their absentee ballots, as if there'd be enough of them to overturn the election. But they just
very
plant
unsettling
these seeds of doubt. But then
so notice notice you put your version of truth in there, which is good that you did, because it is true, as if there is enough to overcome the vote, and you slipped it in.
Funny how
a lot of times how that happened, and what happens is that from the person that's trying to talk about a vote being valid or not, they will pick that sentence that you just said there, and they will start arguing with that as a distractor. It shouldn't matter if it's enough or not. What matters is this vote being counted or not? They'll use that little phrase that you said there and take the thing sideways, because it is an argument on whether or not the need for truth and trust can be met with one single vote to the best of our ability. And to the best of our ability is a pursuit of truth as a process, not as we're not going to get it 100% right, but you are not going to argue about a 0.101% untruth. See, there's a dead person that voted. Tucker Carlson did it. He took that woman's vote. He took it out on national media. He said, how can this Mr. do this vote? He died. And the answer is that, well, it was his wife that made the vote. And that's the way she was listed on the voter's ballot, because back in the past, women used to call themselves that their husband's name.
Yeah.
And that's the way it was listed.
Mrs. John Smith, whatever. I mean, that's not his name, but yeah.
Right. That's correct. He later apologized, but here's the tragedy about the way the brain works. Too late, because it gives evidence that 0.0001% of something is evidence that dead people vote.
Right. Yeah. Everybody hears the initial claim. They don't hear the apology or the retraction, and the damage is done. We've talked about that before. Okay. Well, thank you for pointing out my tragic use of language there and sort of undercut the point I was trying to make.
Right.
But it's very illuminating. But what I was trying to get at was this collision between what Trump says, doing these sorts of things, and then what happens in a court of law, who's the arbiter of truth. And this happened with Rudy Giuliani, as he's representing Donald Trump, trying to get a lot of votes thrown out. And he's alleging that, hey, these people weren't allowed to cure their vote. And the reality is the judge keeps asking Rudy Giuliani questions. So you're alleging that the two individual plaintiffs were denied the right to vote. Is that correct? And basically says yes, but he says, but at the end of the day, you're asking the court to invalidate more than 6.8 million votes and then disenfranchising every single voter in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. And then he asked Giuliani, how can you justify that? Can you tell me how that result, how these two voters that couldn't be cured justifies disenfranchising 6.8 million people? And Giuliani didn't have an answer, but he kept arguing that, the Trump campaign was blocked from observing the ballot processing in key cities. And then the Democrats, could have conspired to commit fraud by counting absentee ballots and in addition to regular ballots. And anyway, the judge at the end of the day came back and said, but there were things that had been thrown out in the case the day before and in their complaint, and the Republicans were no longer alleging fraud. And then he finally got back to Giuliani and said, are you alleging fraud now? Is there any fraud you're trying to say in this case? And Giuliani said, no, we're not alleging any fraud. I mean, so at the end of the day, the reality is the arbiter of truth is peeling back all this, wild accusations, trying to get at truth. They do get at truth. And at the end of the day, they're not even alleging fraud. So it made me question why Trump's actually doing this. Why is he sending Rudy Giuliani in and continuing to argue these things if they're not alleging fraud and they're not achieving a goal of changing the result of the election in certain states? And it probably is really related to what you just said, Bill. It'll be too late. It's going to cast enough doubt. It's sowing seeds of doubt in half of America that is going to feel justified in saying the election was rigged. Does that make sense to you?
Yes.
And there's no longer a direct end game of trying to overturn the election. It's really more laying a justification for how to characterize the election in the eyes of Trump.
You know what? There is nothing more powerful than the phrase sowing seeds of doubt. And now we've got to talk about what the seeds are. The seeds are language phrases that are reinforcing needs that the listener can feel doubtful about. A brain that experiences doubt and skeptical becomes inactive. It doesn't question the doubt or question the source anymore. It doesn't. It literally doubt and skepticism is the poison to curiosity and creativity. It's the poison that separates us from ourselves. Because if you feel doubt and skeptical about something, you will not ask the curious question that will allow you to have the breakthrough.
To find where truth lies.
Find where truth lies. The truth lies is the issue is not whether or not somebody upsets another person by, doing something or saying something. It's the doubt and skepticism on our own body that prevents us from taking the action that would lead us to the breakthrough.
Wow.
I don't want to say something at work. I don't want to ruffle the feathers. It's too dangerous. We haven't made it safe for ourselves to talk to each other. And, the judgmental voice is there's certain people that create doubt and create skepticism, and then it casts doubt on the other person. And
one more really good quick example of this, it just happened in Michigan. So you had the Wayne County, Michigan, which is the biggest county where Detroit is, and their board of electors had to certify the vote. Had to certify the Wayne County vote by November 17th. That's what the law says. They had to certify it by the 17th. And so there are 2 Democrats, 2 Republicans, and the Democrats voted initially to certify the vote and the Republicans did not, and they were at a stalemate. But then due to public outcry and even some other Republicans in the legislature at Michigan putting pressure on those, Republican people that had to vote to certify, changed their vote, and they did vote to certify, and it was unanimous to certify it. And the deadline was met of November 17th, and those votes in the county are certified, going on to the state to be completely certified. Well, Trump called each of those 2 people the next day, and then they recanted. They're saying, they filed affidavits. They've signed affidavits. They're saying, I want to change my vote back. I don't want to certify the election. And there is no mechanism to do that. And it doesn't look like this is going to result in any change in the certification of the vote. But now it's going to give Trump a reason to say the vote in Michigan is problematic. It's tainted. It's fraud. It can't be trusted.
It's not just one county, it's the entire state of Michigan is tainted. It gives the one little incident of two people struggling with their own internal ethics and morals about, is this valid or is this not valid? I heard that. It's all hearsay. I mean, a Trump's ability to market and promote that hearsay is true, he's literally made an entire living off of that. Some people have said, some people know. You won't believe what is happening. It's called Obamagate. Look it up. And he's just throwing spaghetti on the wall to see how much of the spaghetti he can get to stick and how long he can get it to stick. Obamagate, is there any proof? Is there anything legal about that? Is there something morally about that? The newspaper people are not understanding that narrative is not helpful to disprove something, because you're actually reinforcing doubt and skepticism is what the orator is wanting you to do. Reinforce doubt and skepticism. Well, because the brain is not looking for truth. It's just looking for the validation of a bias. It's not looking for truth.
What should everybody be doing? What should the media be doing? What should Biden be doing? Everybody's just saying, the media is saying, well, he is the president-elect. I mean, they're just making the statement, which is the factual statement. And we've often said the facts don't always help. They're making the factual statement, well, he is president-elect. He's won the election. They're going to keep saying that.
He's got to start stating my biggest guidance to Joe Biden is start using sentences that set the vision, which might sound like this. It sounds like the two Republicans in Michigan were feeling doubtful and skeptical about certification. I'm really interested in making sure that they have confidence in doing that. I want them to feel good about the certification. I wonder how we can get greater truth and trust for them to do that so they can certify it and they don't have to recant anything. Gosh, I really feel curious about. Notice I'm asking the curious question into it, not they're racist.
You're not making a statement. You're asking a question. You're showing curiosity, which hopefully will make others ask questions and feel curiosity. And
yes, and then that casts doubt and skepticism on the person that's trying to stir the pot. Why are they asking for it? Oh, they're asking for it for this reason.
It actually casts doubt and skepticism on the original doubt and skepticism. Is that what you're saying?
That's right. It throws a bucket of water on it, and then all of a sudden doubt and skepticism is out, and it's going like, whatever. It's not, it literally minimalizes it to the level it needs to be minimalized 0.001%. It could be there.
Interesting. So
but it's not there.
Language is a powerful weapon if you know how to use it properly. But it seems right now, Trump knows how to use that a whole lot better than the people that would oppose him.
He's so good at it. He's so good at hijacking people without knowing. And the word hijacking is not as strong as really. It's a label and diagnosis. The better phrase is that it taps into the person's beliefs and biases, and he builds agreement. It's in a tragic way. It's at the expense of truth and trust, but it is building agreement inside the person so they buy what he's selling. Anyway, so more to do that is how things can be bought and sold through language choice. I think how things. Man, it's an interesting time that we're living thing, and purchasing truth is really actually what's happening here. So
it is happening all over the place on a daily basis. And I think a lot of people feel very unsettled because of it. Too much uncertainty, right? So
that's right.
Because I think that's what a lot of people voted for, was sort of restoration and healing. And we sort of had enough of this, daily roller coaster ride of, an assault on truth, really.
So true. All right. Well, more to come on this, Tom. There's definitely a next time we'll start increasing some messages in our narrative about what can you say or do back to that, so that you're emotionally
stable. That'd be
stable.
very helpful for we don't just want to sit here and take it. What do we say to combat it? And you gave us a clue here today, but I appreciate it.
All right.
Thanks, Bill.
All right. More to come, Tom. Thanks.
Right.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to this Purchasing Truth podcast. We trust that you have enjoyed this engaging and thought-provoking conversation. Our hope is that you've received value, found clarity, and broadened your truth perspective in this episode. If you did, leave us a review or visit our website, purchasingtruth.com. Join us again for another informative and content-rich discussion here at the Purchasing Truth podcast. Don't just accept whatever information comes your way. Join the discussion. Discover your own voice. Purchase your own truth.